every time I want out, they pull me back in. Oh man, I know I wrote that bit just for the sake of it, but considering the topic of today's video, that actually means something. Readers, I promise you that I wasn't trying to make this video right now. Ever since Disney Plus and HBO Max made it known that they weren't following the Netflix and Hulu model of releasing the entire season of a show in one sitting and opted for weekly releases instead, I chose peace over chaos and vowed to wait until either the entire season or a significant chunk of a show was available for me to binge. That's pretty much how I was able to make my video on Raised by Wolves Season 1 within the first week of its premiere. The first 3 episodes were available to me right off the bat, and I was able to both binge watch and make a video about them. But while I was able to keep my vow when it came to both seasons of The Mandalorian, WandaVision seems to be testing my patience. Despite giving certain influencers and reviewers access to the first 3 episodes before the series premiere on Disney Plus, Marvel Studios only released the first 2 episodes to the public on January 15th, 2021. Take into consideration that the episodes so far have only been a half an hour or so long in order to match the runtime of a primetime comedy sitcom, and probably won't cross over into a longer runtime until episode 4, and it's pretty sure to assume that that's not gonna be enough for me. And I pretty much came to that conclusion after watching the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, stating on my Twitter that after watching them, I'm probably not going to make a video about it until the entire miniseries is finished. That also meant I wasn't going to watch any more of it until the miniseries was finished, so I could happily binge watch all of it, because I hate the ritualistic weekly television torture that is episodic television. But that's a topic for another video. Then, episode 3 was made available to the public on January 23rd. And nobody would shut the fuck up about it. So, I caved in and watched it. And honestly, I cannot figure out for the life of me why they only decided to release the first 2 episodes of the series on January 15th, as opposed to what everyone else was available to watch. Because not only do the collective first 3 episodes put a lot of things about this series into perspective once watched back to back, but I was able to figure out what was going on and possibly which direction the show is going to head from episode 4 onward, thanks to noticing a few psychological thriller tricks throughout the narrative, thanks to a video game that was the talk of the town back in 2017. I'm of course talking about Team Salvato's Doki Doki Literature Club. Now, for those unaware, Doki Doki is a dating simulator where you, the male main protag, find yourself joining the literature club of a Japanese high school thanks to your childhood friend Sayori. You meet the other 3 members, Yuri, Natsuki, and the club leader, Monica. Now, because this is a dating sim, you're free to choose to romance any of the members of the club through a minigame that lets you create poems that reflect their personalities. So, it's a pretty normal dating sim. You know, as normal as a dating sim can be for those who regularly play them. I've only ever played Dream Daddy, so my knowledge is limited. However, the only character you can't really seek romance with is Monica. And that's where we step into the psychological thriller / horror of the game. Because Monica, from the moment you start your new game, is self-aware. She knows that she is just a character in this game and that you are actually playing said game. And because of that, she has the ability to manipulate aspects of the game, including the personalities of the other romanceable characters in the dating sim that aren't aware of the fourth wall before them. Because of this, she begins to do so, subtly at first, then more rampant the more things don't go her way, in order to not only force you to spend time with her that you otherwise shouldn't be able to, but also break the game while exposing the player to some pretty disturbing alterations of the originally romanceable characters, all for the sake of having you, the player, not the character you're playing, to herself.
Ah! Oh shit! What the fuck?
Now, while I didn't play this game personally, I was both told about it by friends of mine who played it and were legit freaked out, and watched various Let's Plays of the game. And while my friends were traumatized, my psychological thriller Satoshi Kon loving ass ate this shit up. Despite never playing it, I love this game. And ever since it came out, I always wondered how the premise, as altered as it would need to be in order to fit the medium, would look if it took the actual thriller/horror of being trapped in an ever-shifting reality that could mold and shape someone against their wishes to fit the overall ideal of one individual. But it took me watching the third episode and then reflecting on the events of the first and second to realize that I was seeing that played out. Because despite the comic arc that inspired the story, WandaVision, at its heart, is Doki Doki Literature Club. And Wanda is Monica. Now, like I said before, readers, I didn't immediately pick up on that realization until after I saw the third episode. Because with the way episodes 1 and especially episode 2 played out, the series felt like it really wanted you to believe that Wanda wasn't responsible for what was going on in Westview, even when they finally introduced Teyonah Parris's character into the latter. Go figure, her actions in episode 3 would be the key to me realizing how everything was actually playing out. Now, those of us who've been keeping up with any and everything news-wise involving the MCU and its casting from Phase 4 onward know that Teyonah's character is Monica Rambeau, Maria's daughter from Captain Marvel all grown up. We knew she was either going to be part of S.H.I.E.L.D. or S.W.O.R.D., the S.H.I.E.L.D.-like organization for space and interdimensional threats that was teased during the end credits of Spider-Man Far From Home when it showed Nick Fury overlooking the construction of the organization's headquarters in space. But in episode 2 of WandaVision, when we're introduced to Monica properly, we see her hesitate when she meets Wanda and instead introduces herself as
Geraldine.
Now, because of how the show presented itself during its marketing, those of us who've watched episode 2 without seeing the following one just thought that this was her being unable to remember who she was. Someone that, like the rest of the town, was being forced to live out this alternate reality that, according to the episode, someone or something trapped her in.
Wanda, who's doing this to you, Wanda?
The reason why we were absolutely sure of this, or at least I was originally, was because in the second trailer for WandaVision that uses footage from episode 3 in it, we see and hear this interaction.
Who are you? I don't know.
But then when we watch episode 3, we find out that what the trailer showed us was actually a red herring. I promise I did not wear this shirt to make that joke. Because in the scene before the one used in the trailer, after the twins are born and Wanda brings up her twin brother Pietro, Geraldine says this.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
Now, how would Geraldine know that if she was being affected by whatever was overtaking Westview like everyone else? Outside of the Avengers, the only other individuals that would have this information are either government officials or S.H.I.E.L.D/SWORD themselves. And then to make matters more complicated / clear, we find out that scene in the trailer in question not only was brought upon her mentioning Pietro's death by Ultron, but we get a very different version of it. Not only do we see the sword necklace she's wearing, but there's a completely different response to Wanda's question than what was presented in trailer number 2.
Who are you?
That's right, readers. The canon version of this scene doesn't have her respond with, "I don't know." As a matter of fact, she doesn't respond at all outside of just having a worried shake of the head. And just like that told us, the viewer, it also told Wanda everything she needed to know about her, and as a result, told us a good amount of information regarding Wanda's current state of control. Once after seeing Geraldine ejected back into reality, and again after Vision asked Wanda where she went.
Oh, she left, honey. She had to rush home.
It's obvious that the only way Monica/Geraldine would know the information about Pietro to trigger such a reaction from Wanda was that she was a plant by SWORD to help Wanda wake up, for lack of better words, by gaining her trust and slowly coaxing her and the rest of Westview out of this altered reality. Because, at least to a certain extent, no one is doing this to Wanda like episode 2 was trying to establish. She's doing it herself. WandaVision episode 3 has established that whatever it is that's happening to Westview and the citizens within it, Wanda is consciously responsible for it in one way or another. And everyone in this town is suffering because of it, forced to have their original personalities shifted and altered outside of what they traditionally were before this gigantic use of her reality-altering power in order to fit her various ideals of what she wants: a perfect life with Vision. But where the citizens of Westview differ from Doki Doki Sayori, Natsuki, and Yuri is that while they don't know Monica is altering their dialogue and personality to make them disturbingly unappealing to the player of the game, the citizens of Westview actually know that they're in an altered state of reality and are constantly having their personalities and identities toyed with. They can't do anything about it. They're trapped.
Small towns, you know, so hard to escape.
And the only way they can have a say in the matter is if they act in a way that plays into the scenarios they're being given in every iteration of the world Wanda simulates in order to try and reach her.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
But when someone or something finds a way to breach her reality enough, Wanda's the one that reverts and changes it. Like when it happened at the end of episode 2.
No.
Or even when Vision himself starts to realize something is wrong in episode 3, and the scene just restarts with a more scripted take.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And the only way she can't alter the state of someone's memory or personality, or just simply either rewind or completely redo a scene to her liking, is if she isn't focusing on it. Which is how after the twins were born, Vision was able to realize that the presence of Monica Geraldine Rambeau nearly got his neighbor Herb to confess something that spooked him before Agnes stopped him from confessing, and he continued to play his part. The people on the outside looking in think that Wanda is trapped in this adjusted reality that's affecting the entire town and are manipulating her abilities to trap the residents, but they're unaware that Wanda is absolutely aware of what she's doing. You know, at least until Monica tells them otherwise now that she's been yeeted out of the Westview Teledome. And just like Sayori, Yuri, and Natsuki in Doki Doki Literature Club, the citizens of Westview, and even Vision himself to a certain extent, are being forced to live out Wanda's ideal of a perfect life with Vision against their will, having their personalities altered in order to match said scenarios and keep them from resisting. Now, am I saying that Wanda is actually the villain of this series? No. While episode 3 definitely put a lot into perspective regarding what's going on with both Wanda and what she's doing to Westview, we also have to take into consideration that while Wanda is doing this to the town, there are, in fact, other forces at work here. Especially now that Billy and Tommy, the twins that were part of the Marvel Comics arc that acts as the main inspiration for the show, have now entered the picture.
For the children. For the children.
And we also can't forget about Agnes, the MCU version of 616's Agatha Harkness, who in episode 3 seems to be just as stuck and affected as the rest of the citizens in Westview, but might have revealed her true allegiance to the series' actual antagonist in episode 2.
The devil's in the details, Bev.
That's not the only place he is.
Mephisto. I'm talking about Mephisto. But it's like I said, readers, this is just what I've been able to put together from the first 3 episodes and previous knowledge of the comics that have clearly inspired this miniseries. And as of the time of this recording, there are still 6 more episodes to go. In all honesty, the only reason I decided to even make this video was because after hearing about how much info episode 3 revealed and making the decision to watch it because of that, I was impressed with how the promotions tried to tell us one thing that was going to happen in the show, only for the actual show to do something else completely different. Plus, I've always wanted to see how the concept of Doki Doki Literature Club would play out in film and television formats, and it looks like I'm finally going to get my wish. But I digress, readers. Your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below where you think WandaVision is going with its narrative. Or if you feel like sharing with the rest of the class, if you're digging the Doki Doki Literature Club feel the series is currently giving off just as much as I am. Whichever you decide to answer, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to help financially support the channel, you can join my Patreon by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below, where you can also find a link to my merchandise store. Or if you prefer to give a one-time donation, you can find links to my PayPal and my Ko-fi account in the description box as well. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.